This episode is brought to you by Heyday. Feeling stressed? Take a moment for yourself with Heyday. Stroll through rows of golden wheat, tend to cute barnyard animals, and discover the joys of a digital farm retreat. You don't have to hop in a car or catch a plane. Escape to the farm at the tap of a finger. With Heyday, you're not just tending to a farm, you're tending to yourself. Heyday. Search Heyday, that's Hay space DAY, in your favorite app store. Heyday is a free-to-play mobile game and offers optional in-app purchases and random rewards.
Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
When I was talking to Ariana's brother, I said something to that effect about if I had grown up differently, maybe in their household, or my mom and their dad actually knew each other and he stuck around, then these guys wouldn't be here right now. Maybe I wouldn't be married to my husband right now and have my kids. So I guess I look at it from that perspective, is everything happened the way it should happen so that we could all be here today and be good to each other and kind and enjoy each other and get to know each other.
Welcome to DNA Surprises, a podcast that delves into the world of unexpected DNA discoveries. I'm your host, Alexis Auersalt. In July 2021, my life took a surprising turn when I found out that I'm an NPE, a person who has experienced a non-paternal event. In other words, my biological father isn't who I thought he was. Join me as we explore the stories of NPEs, adoptees, and donor-conceived people and their families. Get ready to unravel the astonishing journeys that begin with a simple DNA test. This is DNA Surprises. So, what happened after Elizabeth sent off those letters to her siblings? In part 2 of Elizabeth's DNA surprise story, she reveals how she was able to make contact with several of her newfound siblings and her biological father. I loved this conversation because we get a glimpse into the other side of the DNA surprise equation, the found family's point of view. I reconnected with Elizabeth in January 2025, and 2 of her siblings, Aerin and Emily, joined us. Her siblings share what it was like to learn about Elizabeth, and Elizabeth shares how it felt to finally connect with her biological father and family. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, go back and listen to Elizabeth's DNA surprise. Thank you to Elizabeth, Aerin, and Emily for sharing your story. So the last time we spoke, Elizabeth, you were just 2 days away from sharing your news, reaching out to your newfound siblings. And I know that you were super nervous about that. You weren't sure where it was going to go. I think the overall tone maybe was that you weren't particularly hopeful. But now we have Emily and Aerin here too. So without further ado, what happened after you sent those letters?
I heard back from Julie, one of the, at the time, probable sisters, and she asked me a few questions, and one was my mom's name. Oh, she asked for a picture of my mom, and then how my mom and her dad met. And I basically got like, I think you should ask your dad. And she said, well, I've already talked to my aunt, the one I had matched with. And she said, my dad doesn't remember. So I was like, I don't want to come off as I'm like hiding anything, but I really didn't want to be the one to tell her. I'd been saying all along, I did not want to be the one that told his kids about me or how we met, my mom and him had met, so to speak. But I was like, well, it's no more secrets, and it's about them too. So they're asking, I guess I'm going to tell. And so she said, oh, I see. And I'm going to talk to my dad and I'll get back to you in a few days. I was like, okay. And I don't know, maybe an hour later, 2 tops, she messaged me back and she said, here's his email address. And he said to email him. I was like, what just happened? Okay. And then we chatted for maybe 20 minutes-ish. She gave me a family picture, which I just couldn't believe. I was like, sharing your family with me already? We just talked about little things, stuff like, I think we talked about having short arms, maybe. Just, similarities, characteristics like that. We signed off. Thursday morning, I sent an email and kind of introduced myself, and I had sent some pictures. I probably sent the copies of my DNA matches, and I just said, I know your sister says the timeline is that you're my father, but I don't think that timeline's good enough for me, and it probably isn't for you. He does have a brother. It was very unlikely, but, a DNA test is the only way to really confirm. I asked him if he would take one and that I would pay for it. And so that was Thursday. I didn't hear anything back till Saturday.
And okay, so you have connected with him then.
I have connected with him.
You believe is your biological father.
Yep, probable biological father.
What was that like once you actually had the chance to
My
connect?
heart's racing right now just telling it. It was scary. I think I probably rewrote that email 10 times and I was just send it. And I just said, of course, I don't want any money. I just want health history and confirmation. I am open to getting to know anybody that wants to know me, but if nobody wants that, I understand. And I just waited. And so that was Thursday. Saturday, I got a reply. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's actually replying. And he said, sure, I don't have a problem taking a test. And I'll give you medical information when the results come back. I was like, we went from complete denial to what I thought was complete denial to communication in a matter of days of sending that letter. It was crazy. And what I found out later was there was a little miscommunication when he was told about me from his sister. So that's why he denied the results. Otherwise, he would have taken it more seriously back in June when he was originally told about me by his sister. And what I also didn't expect was he said, I will order a test if you're ready. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, sure, I'm ready. And he kept me up to date the whole time. I sent it off. I got notification. It'll be in a few weeks. And I was checking my ancestry every morning and multiple times a day. This was back in October. I checked that morning around 8 and there was nothing new. And I want to say it was like 9:30, 10. He sent me an email and said the results were in. It was pretty emotional. It's still emotional. Because even though it was very likely, but just to see it in writing and to see that confirmation was just overwhelming. I started this whole thing because I wanted confirmation that the guy on my birth certificate was my dad. And then it just didn't happen, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
So he said, he emailed me and he said, the results are in, where would you like to go from here? I was like, oh, okay. So the door's not closed. And I emailed him back and I just said, I'm open to getting to know you and your wife and a medical history when you're ready. If you still want to do that, please take all the time you need. I know this is a lot. 2 weeks go by and I heard back from him and he had a medical history for me and it must have been close to Thanksgiving. Yes, it was close. Hope you have a Thanksgiving. I was like, what? What about where do we go from here? So I emailed him back and I said, thanks. I'm here if you have any questions. And then he emailed back, yeah, I am too. And I'm like, I said, well, I have a question. I need your wife's recipe for Mexican lasagna because your daughters say it's fabulous. So that's how we started.
So at that point, then you've connected with Aerin and Emily?
I have. And Julie, we had a sibling chat after the results came in. Yeah. after the results came in. We had a 3.5 hour Zoom chat. Did that.
Yeah, but we had a text group going before that.
Yeah, we were texting quite a bit. And then I was emailing. I've heard from multiple siblings that the family is not much for chatting. I don't know how I fit in with that because, Alexis, I'm a chatter. So I'm trying to find balance with that. But I emailed. I'm not at my dad yet. So their dad, I'm not sure where he's at with that yet either, but I'm not quite there yet. So I'll just say their dad. And he emails me back because I emailed him some questions and just asking about family stuff, like what were your parents like and things like that. And he emails back, there's this neat invention called the telephone. Why don't we use it? And so I was like, oh, he's a smarty pants like me. And him and his wife called me like a couple hours later. And we talked for an hour and a half on the phone. And I thought it went really well. They had questions for me. And I just talked about a little bit about my childhood and, what I'm up to now. It was really heartwarming because their mom said that if he'd have known about me when I was growing up, he would have wanted me. So I thought that was really sweet. And then maybe like a week later, we switched to text and I sent him a text. And actually, I reached out to Aerin first. I said, do you think it's too soon for me to come visit? Aerin says, not for me. I said, okay. So I sent their dad a text and I said, there's this neat invention called an airplane. What do you say I use it? He says, you're funny. So my husband came home. I said, what do you think about me going to visit? He doesn't like that I travel by myself. So he's not super thrilled. He wants me to take somebody with me. And I said, no, I need to do it by myself. So I had the plans made within a few days. And so it's just been going really well.
I'm so happy for you, first of all, because when I met you at the retreat, things looked so different. And this is really just a testament to how quickly things can change. And also what can happen when you put yourself out there, right? You took a chance by sending those letters. Let's start with Emily. You get, this would have been in September, a letter from a random woman saying, I am your sibling. What is going through your mind when you get this information?
Okay, that's not exactly how it happened on my timeline. Elizabeth reached out to all of us. Julie, being the big sister and the responsible one, was the first one to see it. So the letter went to my old address where my ex-husband lives, and so I never saw it. And the one she sent through Facebook went to spam, so I didn't see it. Julie texted me in the middle of the day and said, did you get a Facebook message from somebody named Elizabeth? And I said, no. Why? And she's like, just wondering. I was like, why? And so then she calls me and she's like, well, I just got this message and she said she sent it to everyone, but apparently she might be our sister. I don't know exactly what went through my mind, but I was like, what? Like very flabbergasted, I guess. My 11-year-old kid was sitting next to me and heard Julie say that as well. And she said, what? So I said, explain. More information, please. She just filled me in about everything Elizabeth just said and the whole ancestry DNA thing. And then talking to her aunt and then talking to dad, I was, okay, well, I guess that's a thing. And that's kind of how I felt about it for a while, was this is an interesting fact about me now, I guess. Nothing really set in quite immediately. I was just kind of like, that's interesting. I guess it's possible. Okay, more of my DNA is out there, maybe. And then I told Julie, I was like, have you talked to Dad? And she's like, kind of. I think I need to tell him that he needs to tell all of us because all of these letters have gone out. And if he doesn't say it, then they're going to hear through a letter. And I was like, that's a good idea. So I kept quiet, and I guess Julie reached out to our dad, and about 30 minutes later, we have a family group chat, a text chain, and we get a text from our mom that said, we need to have an adults only Zoom meeting tonight, 9 o'clock. We have a big family. There's 6 of us kids. Immediately, side text group split off. What do you think it's about? What's going on? Who's dying? Is everyone okay? You know? And of course, everyone knows Julie. And Julie, do you know? Julie knows, don't you? You know, don't you, Julie? Julie's like, Dad needs to tell you, but everyone's okay. No one's dying.
The oldest always knows.
And so then we had the Zoom meeting, and Aerin found out.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Finding a new job is stressful. But with Indeed, it doesn't have to be. Just fill out your Indeed profile with your skills, experience, and desired salary. The more you fill out, the better your matches will be. And hearing from hiring managers will be 2 times more likely. Relax. That's your Indeed profile sending opportunities your way. Indeed, the world can work better.
Okay, so let's flip over to Aerin. You find out with the rest of your siblings on a Zoom call. What does your dad say exactly?
So first of all, I'm a little upset at Julie because she called Emily and not me. I did not know that fact.
Sorry, I think you were working.
Yeah, I had no idea that this was going down, any of it. I was completely out of the loop on it until our mom texted the family chat, adult family meeting, 9 o'clock tonight. And I'm immediately spiraling because I have anxiety. And I texted my mom. I said, can you give me some context, please, so that I don't spiral? Like, come on, Mom, you know me. And she's like, don't worry, nobody's dying or dead. And I'm like, okay, that's helpful, I guess. So I go into this family meeting, and Dad says, so it seems to be that you have another sister. And I didn't know what to say in that moment. I don't know if anybody else of the siblings felt this way, but I immediately felt excited. I was super happy about it. I wish that I had known sooner. I didn't want to express that immediately because I didn't know how my dad was feeling about it. I didn't know how Mom was feeling about it. I didn't want to bombard them, I guess, with my excited feelings about it if they were not excited. So I kind of just let everybody else kind of talk it out during that meeting. And that's when I also learned that Elizabeth had sent out the Facebook messages and the letters, which I had not received either. I didn't receive the physical letter because it just got lost in the mail, I guess. And then I didn't get the Facebook message because it went to spam. So after the family meeting was over, I went to Facebook. I Facebook stalked her because I was like, I want to know everything about this person. As one does.
As one does.
As one does. And I went to send her a message. And that's when I saw her message to me. I did something I don't normally do. And I said, whoa there, slow down. And I told myself, sleep on this, take a minute, don't do the diving in thing that you usually do. So I didn't message her back until the next day, but I basically said, "Hi, I'm your sibling. I would like to welcome you to the family if that's something that you're interested in." I was actually at work when I sent the message, and I was in the middle of telling my coworker about this wild story when she messaged me back and was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, hi, hello," and we're talking. And as soon as she messaged me back, I just started crying because I was so relieved that she wanted to talk to me and was excited that I wanted to talk to her. And yeah, we've just been kind of talking from there, and here we are now.
Wow. Okay. I do want to back up because sometimes siblings are not open. I don't know. I don't have data if it's like 50-50 or what, but sometimes they're not open. And oftentimes when they're not open, it's because the newfound sibling was conceived from an affair, for example. So they might be younger, right, than their other siblings. So when you had this Zoom call with your family, did your dad say this was from another life? She's older than you?
There were a lot of questions that were thrown out. He told us, it was from when he was 20 and in the Navy, and we all know that was a different life for him. It was well before he met our mom and, a different time. So we knew like the basic details of the time frame and all of that.
I remember we asked our mom how she was feeling.
Yeah, that was a question.
She was just kind of, it is what it is. It happened in the past. Can't change the past.
I believe what she said was, "I'm fine."
Oh, yeah, she did. It's fine.
Mom is always fine.
At what point, Emily, do you get in the mix and now you have like a group chat going and everything?
I don't remember how long it was, maybe a week. I just kind of been thinking about it, and I was like, I feel like I should reach out. And so I did, and I was like, I don't really know how to say this without being awkward, but hi, I guess. And just wanted to kind of introduce myself and just say I'm probably super awkward about this, but hi, hello. I'm Emily. Elizabeth messaged back pretty soon after and was like, "If you're awkward, I'm super awkward," or something like that.
It's not more awkward than a woman that just sent 6 strangers a letter.
Elizabeth, how did it feel to get these messages?
Oh, it was amazing. Siblings? Well, when Aerin messaged me, their message was a lot longer than what Aerin said. That was a little snapshot, but it was just so heartfelt. And I went into this that I wasn't going to, I didn't ask Julie if she wanted to be friends on Facebook. I didn't ask Emily. Actually, I finally got tired of waiting for Emily, and I just said, I sent you a request. Because after a while, I was like, I'm friends with almost everybody now on Facebook, so come on. But it just felt right with Aerin in the moment. I was like, I really want to chat with you. I said, do you want to be on Facebook? You can look through all my stuff. And we just didn't quit. I was on the elliptical. I on the elliptical, and then my husband had a Zoom chat set up for us for a business meeting. And I was like, oh, is this ever going to be over? And I was like trying not to look at my phone. And I was like, it's never going to be over. It was like an hour long. And then I had a follow-up appointment. I see my leukemia doctor twice a year. And I had an appointment down in Aurora that day. And I got down to my appointment and I had medical history. I had a little bit because that cousin that I told you I had connected with, and I had gotten a little bit from the paternal aunt. And so I had medical history that I had never had before. So I told my specialist, I said, well, it's been interesting since I saw you last. And I said, I have medical history, a little bit of medical history. I should be getting more. And I told him what happened. And he's like, he turns to his computer, he starts typing, and then he turns around and he goes, wait, we need to talk about this. First of all, how are you doing? Blah, blah. So we get through the whole visit, and he said, so I've probably had the leukemia for 8 years or better, but it just showed up in my blood in the last 3 years. And he says, your labs are great. I don't need to see you but once a year. You're probably like 10 years out for treatment. And I was like, this is the best day ever. I was like,
Oh, that's great.
let's go play the lottery. Well, I don't know what's happening. And so, yeah, so it was great. And then I stalked Aerin's stuff. I looked through Aerin's and messaged them. And, we just really hit it off. And then Emily came in, and the first chat we had, Emily was going through their family tree. Remember that? And you're shooting me all these pictures, and then all of a sudden, well, it looks like we have royalty in the family. And just on it on. It was awesome. And then when the test results came back, Julie friended me on Facebook, and then the oldest brother. And then in the last 2 weeks, the youngest brother and his wife connected with me on Facebook, and we've had a Zoom chat as well. And I'm also connected with the oldest brother's wife. And so there's just one left that I need to get my hands on. But I'm not pushing anybody. If he's ready, then I'll be here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't get over like how much has changed since we spoke, which was not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, Aerin and Emily, why do you think that you were so receptive and open to the possibility of a new sibling?
Because of my bleeding heart.
I think a lot of it does have to do with our parents and the way that they raised us, and just being kind to everybody and accepting people for who they are. And that's just, I don't know, we've always just been that family where if you don't have a place to go on Christmas, you can come to our house no matter what.
That's true.
Or Thanksgiving, I can invite someone for Easter or Thanksgiving and no one cares. I don't have to ask. It's just a given. If someone needs a place, we can be their place. So I just think it's shout out to my parents and how they raised us.
Yeah.
I told them that too. Yeah, I told them that on the phone. I said, you did good. You raised good kids. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they raised us in a place to always accept everybody. And I think it speaks to our own personal character as well. I mean, I said my bleeding heart, but it's true. I can't imagine rejecting somebody who's looking for their family. I can't read books or watch a movie where someone gets rejected by anybody else. It makes me sob. So I can't imagine saying no to somebody who wants to be part of my life. Unless they're a super toxic person, but I don't think Elizabeth is that.
Oh no, we'll find out in February.
Now, I do want to ask Elizabeth, because when we last spoke and when we talked a lot at the retreat and the support groups, you've talked a lot about your origin story, your conception. And you mentioned you didn't want to break that news to any of your newfound siblings. You wanted them to find out another way. What has connecting with your siblings and your biological father done for you in terms of maybe changing your perspective on that? Because I don't want to say it was something that was hard for you to deal with, but it was something that you mentioned, quite a bit.
I wouldn't say that my conception story bothered me as much as I was worried it would bother them. I just felt like that was such a bombshell of a thing to tell somebody. Like I said in my other interview, I didn't have a cool story. I didn't have a Nicholas Sparks, young love, he got shipped out kind of a story, right? And so I was just mostly worried about messing up other people's lives for my own gain, which was just that confirmation, because I didn't want to leave that legacy to my kids of who's your daddy? Who's my grandpa? I didn't want to leave that to them. And so that's one reason why I was so driven to find my truth. And that's what I was hoping for. And maybe one person might talk to me. So this is just a happy new beginning. And I feel like I found my people I didn't know I was missing. I have so much more in common with these two plus the other ones that I've talked to than I did with my race sisters. So it's just like, I don't know. It just, to me, it feels right. I hopefully it feels right to everyone else. I'll work on my chattiness before I get there.
No, I mean,
Don't change anything about yourself.
Okay.
Aw.
I will. Thank you.
yeah, and it's true that you worded it so well, because you really didn't have a stigma about what your mom did or what anybody did, but it was that piece of how to tell somebody who maybe had a perception. But it sounds like Emily and Aerin, you both acknowledge that your dad lived a different life before he met your mom. Things were different, and it didn't affect your view of Elizabeth at all.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we would always tease my dad about.
It
growing
is,
up.
actually.
Yeah.
Remember that other life you had, Dad?
Yeah.
I want to kind of jump back to that. If your dad had known that he would have wanted to be like more involved with Elizabeth, and I saw Elizabeth, that touched you, that sentiment. What is the age difference between Elizabeth and the oldest sibling?
A lot.
Not trying to put you on
How
blast.
old is
Well,
Elizabeth?
I just turned 54.
14 years.
14. Yeah.
Okay, 14 years. Okay.
Mhm.
So, I know a lot of people, and I would tend to agree, it's not super healthy to spend a lot of time sitting in the what ifs and, what would have been different or that kind of thing. But have you all talked a little bit about what it might have been like to know about each other earlier?
I actually had a conversation when I had my phone conversation with their mom and dad, and also the Zoom chat with their youngest brother, our youngest brother. I'm working on this. Okay. And his wife, he was super, super nice, him and his wife, and he apologized like twice that I didn't get to know their dad. I think Aerin might have done that at one point too. And then when I was talking with their parents, the subject came up, and I'm not bitter about it. I'm just not. I think that everything happens for a reason. Of course, I wish I would have found out differently than the way I found out. And I wish things would have went differently with my mom after it came out. But I told their parents on the phone, if this had happened 10 years ago, I don't think I would have been ready. I had things I needed to work on. And so I don't think I would have been ready and healthy enough to manage all of these new relationships, to have the strength. I've had to learn to advocate for myself. As the older I get, the better I get at it. 10 years ago, I don't know that I would have tackled this and kept at it until I got my answer. And when I was talking to our youngest brother, I said something to that effect about if I had grown up differently, maybe in their household, or my mom and their dad actually knew each other and he stuck around, then these guys wouldn't be here right now. Maybe I wouldn't be married to my husband right now and have my kids. So I guess I look at it from that perspective, is everything happened the way it should happen so that we could all be here today and be good to each other and kind and enjoy each other and get to know each other. And as of now, I still have my family. They haven't left me yet.
Wow. It's just, honestly, you couldn't really ask for like a better, I don't want to say ending because the journey continues.
It's a new beginning.
But
it's a happy beginning. And I feel like I've won the DNA lottery. It's just...
You did.
I am. I just don't, I'm overwhelmed at times, and I'm building relationships with so many different people, and it's wonderful and it's challenging all at the same time.
Elizabeth, I'm curious, the last time we talked, and I ask everybody advice for people who just had a DNA discovery. What would you tell Elizabeth, who attended the retreat, who I spoke with in September?
Well, hang in there. And I don't know if it was, I don't want to say I was pessimistic, because that sounds kind of like an Eeyore thing, like you're just always doom and gloom. But because of my upbringing, I didn't expect to be even related to good people, honestly. So keep an open mind, and maybe it's not going to be as bad as you think it's going to be. So you just never know. I mean, come on. I'm a good person. Why wouldn't I be related to good people somewhere? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now I want to ask, we'll start with Aerin. What advice do you have for anyone out there who might be contacted by a newfound sibling or an unknown sibling?
I would say don't immediately dismiss it, because you might come across a gem of a person like I did. Don't disregard it. I mean, obviously, be cautious, be careful. There are scammers out there in this big, crazy world, but don't just throw it away, because you might find something great and that person might really need you. So,
Emily, same question.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Just, I say follow your heart and be vulnerable. Allow yourself to be vulnerable, but also take things at your own pace and follow what feels right for you, and just go off of your own instincts. But also what Aerin said is don't knock it till you try it, type of thing.
Yeah.
If someone comes to you and talks to you, talk back. You never know what you're going to find.
That's great advice. What are you most looking forward to about meeting each other in person? And we can start with Emily.
I think just getting to know you in person. It's always different being around somebody than talking to someone on the phone or over a video chat. I think that building a better bond with you, Elizabeth, is what I'm excited about. And just doing the whole sister hangout thing, I think that'll be really fun.
Aerin?
I think the best thing is going to be okay, so it's one thing to see you in a video and talk to you on the phone and do all these things. When you're there in person, it's like, oh my God, she's real, So the whole, having her physically be here and seeing her face to face is what I'm most looking forward to. The whole it's real thing.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Totally. What about for you, Elizabeth?
I'm looking forward to having conversations with their dad and getting to know him and his wife. And I'm a hugger. I'm in for some hugs. I texted Aerin yesterday. I'm like, are we a hugging family? Because I need to know.
Yes.
So I didn't grow up in a hugging household. I've learned to be a hugger over the years. And so now I'm just always hugging people, whether I don't even ask permission a lot of times, which is probably bad. But I think finding more synchronicities, that's been really fun for me. Maybe some competition. They're very competitive. I'm competitive. Maybe some games, playing some board games, seeing where they live, seeing their area. Yeah, just pretty much, I don't know. It's not really one thing. It's going to be a short visit, but it's already seems like it's going to be packed. And hopefully I get to meet everyone that lives out there. And I'm very, very fortunate, and I'm not taking this for granted. And I'm just looking forward to getting to know everybody, say in person, and thinking about how I can convince my husband to go back again. I haven't even been there yet.
That's so amazing. I'm so happy for all three of you with the way that this is going. And I would absolutely love to get an update after you all meet in person. This journey never ends. There's always something new, but you're really in the thick of it now, making all of these connections. And it's so, so awesome to see.
I wasn't expecting to get another sibling. I thought I was good with my 5 that I had. And, it's whenever you tell someone, oh yeah, there's 6 of us kids. I have five siblings. And they're, what? That's a lot of kids. And now I can say that I have 6 and there's 7 kids in my family, and I wasn't expecting that, and I'm very happy about it.
Same.
So.
Same.
I actually had that conversation today with somebody. Somebody asked me how many siblings I had, and my automatic response is, "Oh, I have 5 siblings." And now, wait a minute, nope, I have 6 siblings now. I have to change the automatic response in my head, but it makes me excited to do that.
Well, thank you again for just so generously sharing your stories and your perspectives. I can't wait to hear how the visit goes. And yeah, I just wish all of you the best. This has just been so heartwarming to get to talk to you 3. So, what happened when Elizabeth went to visit her family? Listen to part 3 to find out. And if you have a DNA surprise that you'd like to share, submit your story at dnasurprises.com. For early, ad-free access to episodes, join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/DNA Surprises. Until next time. This episode of DNA Surprises was hosted, produced, and edited by me, Alexis Auerselt. It was mixed and mastered by Josh Auerselt of Siren Recording Studios.